Now let's talk about XHTML. Now I've mentioned throughout the course how the XML universe seemed to start small and begin to expand, and it just continues to expand and expand. What's happening is as XML gets implemented, we keep coming across other ways to say, hey, wait a minute, this is what we need here. This would be cool. Here's how XML can help this particular area of the web or of data transfer or so forth. The web is really being caught up in XML, and so XHTML is the next version of HTML after 4.0. Why? And what is it? Well, the what is that HTML and XML have become married, if you will, because HTML has some problems. So really what we're doing is we're applying the strict syntactical requirements of XML to HTML. HTML has some serious weaknesses that have caused us problems for years on the internet. Now, if you go back to where HTML came from, you realize that HTML came from a world where markup was considered nominal. Presentation was not important. We simply wanted to mark up the text or the data that we were trying to present in a web browser simply to get it in the browser. We didn't care what color it was, what size it was, and all that sort of thing. Commercialism came along and changed all that. As a result, HTML was written to be very loose, and so there's a lot of very poor coding out there in the HTML world. The next thing, this poor coding and this proliferation of markup issues in HTML has been really exacerbated by the browser issues. Internet Explorer treats certain tags and even sees different tags than does some of the Netscape browsers and so forth. And so depending on what browser you're in, you may be looking at a web page that looks totally different or doesn't appear correctly at all. Also, there's a lot of unstructured pages. There's really not a standard structure for HTML pages, and nothing's forcing us into a standard structure, therefore there is no standard structure. That creates all kinds of issues. Now, what is HTML's strength? Well, it has one big strength, and that is simply proliferation. There is tons and tons and tons of HTML pages out there. So the answer is not to do away with HTML totally and come up with some new technology. That would be a massive undertaking. It would cost billions of man hours to correct the HTML pages that are there. It would be a horrible nightmare. So the answer is to simply add XML characteristics to HTML. Now, what does that mean for us in English? It means our HTML pages are going to become validated. They have to be well formed, and we're going to really apply strict syntactical rules to what can be in this page. And then once the code becomes standardized, it's going to be much easier to standardize web functionality across multiple browsers. Bottom line, we're going to begin to express HTML as XML. And HTML is going to look and feel more and more XML. Now, here's the way this is being implemented. There are 3 flavors of XHTML. Now, those of you watching this who have been involved in HTML for a while will recognize these things. First, there's a strict flavor in an XHTML document that says absolutely no HTML elements are allowed here. And these are presentation elements. Then there's a transitional one that gives you a little bit of leeway that says, okay, look, this is an XHTML document, but you can have some HTML presentation elements in here. Now, this is probably what you're going to see most of all, because this is going to allow people to slowly come across into the HTML world or XHTML world. But they're going to have to try to get people away from using things like font, table, and those kind of tags. Now, those are really ingrained into us as web developers. So in transitional, we can still use these. In strict, we can't use those. And then there's a frame set. Frames are also available along with the HTML presentation elements like tables, fonts, and so forth. This takes us back to what I said at the beginning of the course. XML is like lava. It is slowly oozing all over the whole world, and it's really going to change the internet. But what it's really working to do is to change the way data is managed, both in the web browser and anywhere else we manage data. So what we'll look at next is we'll create a very simple XHTML document and show you some of the minor differences. And then we'll go take a look at validating an XHTML document.